Matt Kovacs, president of Blaze PR, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top Pros Talk.
Now, what's your best advice to have organizations allow their PR budget to really work tenfold?
Yeah, I think what's interesting these days, as you look at the state of the economy and even just, PR in general, I think the biggest thing that we talk about where for clients it's important is that you have to be more creative. You have to come to the table with almost a marketing hat, if you will, less of that publicist or just PR mentality of coverage for coverage sake. It's really about looking at how the dollars can have a bigger impact. So in thinking more of what's going to affect sales, what's going to affect the brand positioning and the positive nature versus just thinking, oh, we'll put a press release, we'll get coverage, we'll get product reviews. That's only really skin deep. So I think to have the marketing dollars work that much harder, you have to have other people invested into the process, especially on the client side. So you have your sales representatives, you have your, obviously the C-suite, you have elements of people that are affected by it, because then there's more buy-in. And also I think what happens is your team gets more motivated because you can be more creative. You can have more opportunities. You can look at partnerships. You can look at, co-branded elements. You can do, Instagram, elements around it with those partners. So I think you're seeing the elements of what clients needs can help versus just, okay, I got an interview in one article. Where do we go from here? And I think we've
Right.
seen lifts really for a number of clients.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because obviously for years the silos between the different disciplines have been breaking down. It's harder to tell what is marketing, advertising, PR, and how they work together. Making them work together obviously has a multiplier effect. But sometimes from an agency perspective, you need to do extra work to accommodate clients, understandably. But how do you do that and keep it profitable at the same time and make it a win for everyone?
It's really about, from that standpoint, obviously we track hours. We have, internally, we have very, I'd say, open and honest discussions with the team on what retainers are, what project, dollars coming in. So they understand the importance and the elements of being as efficient as they can. So you have the abilities. I know in the past, we used to have a rule sheet in my previous agency of, a press release should take, 50 minutes, a pitch should be 10 minutes, like all those things. But when you boil it down, that really works for the team to understand time. That's really, what clients pay us for is obviously our expertise and our contacts and our networks. But within that, you have to be efficient with your time. And that's where you can be that much more, profitable. And also for the clients, you're much more efficient for them because you're garnering the information they need as well as the results.
Yeah, and I would think transparency, you mentioned it with the internal team, but with the client is also really important for that.
Correct. And that's something, again, through the years that, I think as anyone learns, having those conversations with clients that, there is, the meter's not always running, yes, they have a fee that they're paying, but that only encapsulates, here's our goals, we've set them, here's the expectations, and that we have limited time throughout the month, obviously, that's not unlimited time. And also for them to understand what are their, from an expectation and priority standpoint, what needs to be accomplished and what are the level A's, B's, C's, and then having those from and we talk a lot about it in our status calls. Here's how we're going against the budget. Here's the hours we're estimating. So there's an awareness and a discussion very early on so they don't feel like, okay, I'm paying you this fee and I can throw everything at you. It doesn't matter, what it is. And I think that's important for them to understand it as well. So they value the time they have and the results to understand, okay, if I invest more, I'll be able to garner more opportunities and go down different paths. Your point about the different disciplines. Is there a marketing thing we could do? Is there a sales driven, element we should do? So that's an important discussion that you have. And obviously, as if they keep throwing things on and it becomes, you're having those hours things, we look at it and we actually send those reports back to them, typically 3 times a year. You send them and say, okay, here's what you've invested. Here's how much time we've spent. And to be able to say, look, we're over servicing or we're investing time in you, not, where it's quadruple the amount of time, but it's a way that they feel like,
Right.
okay, you are a partner. And I think they respect those discussions, and we've had them, in a way that they feel, as part of the process, and it doesn't feel like we're, nickel and diming them at every moment.
Yeah, well, I'm sure our viewers are aware, and you've seen obviously the coverage that the shelf life for a CCO or a chief marketing officer has gotten way shorter than it used to be. So, how do you navigate transitions? Because I know there are times new team comes in, they have their people, it ends a relationship. Are there some guidance and tips that you have from an agency perspective first, and then follow up with what the CMO, CCO coming in, how they can keep some continuity as well? So let's start with what's the agency perspective? How do you navigate those transitions?
Really have multiple relationships within an organization. So obviously you have your day-to-day contact, but you want to make sure that if there's VPs of marketing, CMOs, salespeople, there's going to be the procurement people, all the way to the CEO, always ensuring that you're having those relationships, be it in person or if it is via LinkedIn, via emails, that you're sharing this information. And it's not just siloed to one person, because then you're beholden to, if that person is gone, now you have to go and sell all over again. So it's really making sure that there's an understanding. We always joke that, our tentacles run long and deep. We need to have a lot of touch points within the organizations, because also our PR can affect and help the sales teams. We can put together decks they can go and then take to buyers and retailers. There's opportunities of how we can merchandise ourselves so that they see the value. So the other thing is understanding with those relationships, what are their goals and needs coming out of the campaign? Because for many of our brands, from billion-dollar companies to startups, we're in many ways they're only external source for marketing or PR or anything. They're an outsourced agency. So we look at it as what we can do to help them to achieve those goals, and at the same time make sure we're having value for them and that there is those relationships. And I teach, we talk a lot with the team. Make sure you're linked in with everyone. Follow them on Twitter. Make sure our accounts are following each other. All those little touch points really add up, and then they understand and they see it. And it's not just about linking in; it's also about posting about their coverage. So like, oh wow, you posted about my new restaurant opening or
Right.
any of those things. So they see that there is a relationship beyond the contracts, that you actually care about what's going on with their business.
And now let's say you're sitting down with the new CCOs just come in. Clearly, that's a time when there's going to be a reassessment. What's some tips, advice that you might have for someone in that position? I guess sometimes they're within the organization, so that can be an easier transition, but other times they're coming from the outside.
It's really twofold. The first one is almost consider a boiled down pitch deck, where we're giving them examples of the brands we work with, case studies, explaining our thinking and our strategies and just our process. And then the second part of it is we walk through, not overwhelming them with 2,000 slides of here's the 2023 storyline. It's really boiling down maybe to that 3 to 5 slides. Here's the highlights, here's the numbers, here's all the research, here's ways to showcase what we've done, and then we understand their brand. And so they understand that we're there to help them and assist them in the role, and not that they're needing to educate or teach us about what's going on. It's a way for us to really create that type of symbiotic relationship right out the gate. So they feel like, okay, I have my PRs all set. I'm new here. I can look at all the other elements, but PR really has a good handle, and that they're creating the value overall for the brand.
As a satellite tour provider, we have, more project based for the work that we do with clients. So as an agency, would you do some projects? Obviously, you've retainer clients, but there are some campaigns that require a heavier workload. There can be an ebb and flow. So how do you really stay in touch, say, after a big campaign has ended? What are some best guidance to keep the communications and momentum going forward?
Yeah, I think what we try and do is go back to those relationships. We look at it and say, okay, here's the recap of the campaign, is a touch point. We make sure that as we have other, be it events or other opportunities, we invite those people to them so they feel part of the family, and we're able to give them those types of access that they maybe wouldn't get otherwise. We also do, again, all the obvious, make sure we're LinkedIn connected. We're sharing information through social media with them. I think the other thing is, when you look at it from, in many respects, in like-minded companies or campaigns, sharing information, recaps, even other articles we see. So trying to become a resource for them, and also educating at the same time. So they look at it as, okay, wow, Blaze was able to do this campaign for us successful. If we garner, if I can get additional dollars, or if I have another campaign, they're smart. They're thinking about me, they're inviting me, they're including me, they're giving me insights I may not see. And we talk a lot about that with, especially, as new people come on board, that knowledge is power. And the more you can be, that resource and really be in the know from across the board, news, pop culture, politics, sports, whatever it is, to be able to have those types of elements, that's really invaluable for, again, a client or a potential client, so they understand that you're in the know.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for sharing such great advice for agency leaders. And I think you've made it clear why you've been able to be so successful during your career. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.